All right, there we go. All right, so she asked me on, I have a unique skill. I have a unique thing. I'm one of the few in America that has this unique thing. It's called the Jing, Jing. Now, if somebody ever read a book, The Yellow Emperor's Classic, or any Tai Chi books, or any of that, they hear about Qing, Qi, and Shen. But the Jing is not the same Jing that they write about in traditional Chinese medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine, when you run out of Jing, you die. That's like, it's as simple as that. So people are talking about kidney chi and cultivating. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about cultivating Jing, Tai Chi Jing, which is cultivating the sexual vibration and connecting it to the bone structure. Yeah, there are only a couple people in America that actually have it. They're great if they have it, but every Tai Chi guy on the planet acts like they have it, and they don't have it. I do. I got mine in 1978, my 4th year of Tai Chi practice. But what happens is everything is different. So all the practices that I was doing 10 hours a day even then, all of a sudden magnified. And what happens when that happens is your body completely changes, like mine did. Now, the usual demonstration of Jing is slamming somebody into the wall, which I've been doing since, 1980. The problem with that is it limits the way that you can express it. So I can't just keep bouncing people into the wall because it breaks walls, it destroys drywall, windows break, everything falls off the walls, pictures fall off. And yeah, but that doesn't motivate anybody to learn or to practice. That just impresses them. So what I learned to do was become a Jing practitioner. Before I learned acupuncture, I learned my practices so that when I learned acupuncture, I don't put 20 or 30 needles in people. I put 1 or 2 in, and I run my Jing on everybody I treat. Now, right now, when I treat 10 people, I probably treat less than 1 with needles because I use my hands and I have the Jing, and my sessions are really short because I'm changing their vibration by overriding it with my vibration. This is a very unique skill that hardly anybody has, and people that have the Jing are secretive about it. But I had to make a decision in 1979 whether I was going to stay in the closet, and I'm not talking about the normal closet. I'm talking about, am I going to be public or private? Well, my personality, I can't be private. It's all public. I've been public since the demo I did, which is on my website, which I can also email to anybody. It's in my memory on my cell phone. The best demonstration I ever did, I did in 1980. Have I done more since then? Yeah, but why bother? I had a Tai Chi student who didn't pay me in trade. He was a CBS cameraman. 1980, nobody had video cameras. So what happened was the deal was he would be in my Tai Chi class, and when I needed something recorded, he would record it. So he recorded it. I was invited to the second Chinese martial art festival in Chicago, and I was one of the demonstrators on stage. So this guy was there with the big TV camera, and captured it. And I pre-recorded my demo the night before on audio, on tape recorder, so I didn't have to talk while I was demonstrating, while I was beating somebody up, or while I was doing sitting meditation, holding a microphone. I never touched a microphone because one of my students was running it into the PA system. So that demo is still the best complete demo for temple-style Tai Chi. It explains Tai Chi, it explains Qigong, it explains Neigong, and Qigong and Neigong are not the same. And if you want to know the difference, let me know, and I'll send you a couple of videos that I did explaining. I've got 150 video clips on YouTube and Vimeo, including talk shows, everything I ever wanted to say, I've already said. My first book, which is going to be the prize, I will mail you a hard copy. The Qigong Bible, I wrote it, I finished it in 1989, and I've been selling it ever since. Now, the second book is the Neigong Bible, which I sell that book for $1,000 because it's got all the internal practices from the entire temple-style Tai Chi system in it that I went through when I finished. I was finished in 1978. So the demo is a must. If you want to learn Qigong, it's all on video. All you got to do is buy the video, push play. It takes 3 hours. What's this got to do with Jing? If you don't learn my Qigong first, you can't develop Jing. They're not mixed and matched. Everything is completely organized. So first you learn the Qigong. It takes 3 hours. People say, oh, you're always talking. Well, yeah, I am always talking about it because I got it right. So in 1983, I created my Qigong system. And in 93, I put it on video. And in, about 98, I converted everything to DVD. And now it's not even DVD anymore. Now all my videos, Qigong, Neigong, and all the other ones, are all on video zip files on MediaFire. So somebody pays me for my video, I send them an email that they click and it downloads. So anyway, back to the vibration. It's really important to cultivate and suck energy in. The first thing I teach is condensing breathing. Condensing breathing is the thing that triggers you to create an internal vacuum so that when you suck energy in, you keep it. You don't lose it. You keep it. You store it. It stores in dantian, and eventually it stores in your bones, in your long bones, and you become quite different. I've taken punches from hundreds of martial arts masters and bounced it off. Now that's because of my Tai Chi Jing, not because of just doing condensing breathing and practicing. Now I still practice 10 hours a day because that's my profession. I'm a professional, like a Tai Chi monk. So let's talk about diet. David talked about diet. I've been vegetarian. I haven't eaten meat since 1973. My Tai Chi master in 1975 told me, if you want the Jing, you have to give up meat. That includes chicken. Then it included fish and dairy. And then he also told me I had to give up ginger, garlic, and onions because it was overstimulating the sex thing. But my Qigong practice is based on cultivating sexual energy, which then converts to something that you can project outside of yourself. So people hire me when they're in trouble to project what I call mojo. So there's two kinds of mojos. I'll go quick through this. protection mojo and destruction mojo. So if somebody's got trouble and they're fighting at work, or they're having trouble with their husband, or somebody's harassing them, I put out a projection that, because of my Tai Chi practice and my Qigong practice, I'm able to project my will outside of myself. This is not black magic. This is not Haitian or Santeria. This is a Chinese practice that I created. Nobody taught me this. This is what happens when you practice 10 hours a day. When you practice 10 hours a day, you develop skills that normal people don't have. So yeah, I'm healthy. I don't have plaque in my blood vessels at all. 0 plaque. How do I know? I had a congenital heart disease that I had fixed 12, 13 years ago, and they told me I had a heart attack because I had plaque in my arteries, and I said, you're wrong. So I was arguing with 15 cardiologists, and they said, well, we have to do an angiogram. That's the only way to tell. They did the angiogram. They found 0 plaque. So they came back to me and they said, we never saw this before. You have 0 plaque. How could you be so sure? How could you be so sure you didn't have plaque? Well, because I haven't eaten meat then in 40 years. Now it's in 50 years. And what? Oh, and you didn't have a heart attack. So if you take care of yourself, you can be healthy when you're old. Now, none of the men in my family lived to be 52 years old. They all had heart attacks. Did they have Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome? No. They had heart attacks. They lived under extreme stress, ate terrible food, had bad marriages, never took care of themselves, smoked. My father smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day and drank 30 cups of coffee. Of course he died from it. I quit smoking October 27, 1969, thank you very much, because I realized I don't want to go out when I'm 45 years old. Anyway, I'm way past 45 years old now. And back to the Jing. Since nobody has it, nobody can talk about it. They use some generic term, like they sound like they might have taken a massage class somewhere or an acupuncture class somewhere, but that's not Tai Chi Jing. Tai Chi Jing takes the vibration that you're cultivating inside and storing and connecting that vibration to your skeleton. That's why when I touch somebody, it seems like magic, because every cell in my body is firing at the same time. That means there can't be a break. You can't have a bad knee, a bad ankle, bad shoulder. You can't have a break in the circuit. The circuit has to be connected, and the vibration from cultivating Jing is what connects everything to make the mysterious explosion. My Tai Chi master would touch you with 2 fingers and send you flying all the way across the room, and even he could send you flying up toward the ceiling, hit the wall, and slide down. I've seen it. I don't have that skill. I don't know what he does to do that. I have no idea. But I've been practicing for 50 years, and I got my Jing in my 5th year. 1978. I started Tai Chi in 1974, and I was the best in the school because I practiced 3 or 4 times a day. Everybody else was doing their 3 hours. I was doing my 6 to 10. So when you learn temple-style Tai Chi, everything is in little tiny pieces that are all connected. The overview is first you learn Tai Chi, then maybe you learn Qigong, but nobody else did. And maybe you learn Neigong, but nobody else did, because I learned Qigong in my teacher's apartment after he closed his school. There was no time where it was like Kung Fu TV show where there were 12 people sitting on cushions. That never happened. Not once. I was the only guy sitting on a cushion. Everybody else didn't care about it, didn't know about it, and it meant nothing. But I cared about getting my Jing. That's all I cared about. I didn't care about graduating college. I didn't care about becoming a lawyer or a chiropractor or a doctor. Now, thank God, I had one of the best Taekwondo masters in the world as my first teacher. Besides my father, which I've talked about many times. Mr. Han was one of the original 12 Taekwondo masters sent out by General Choi to teach the world in the 50s. Now, he was 19 years older than me. He was 40 when I was 21. And I told him I wanted to be the hardest working American student he ever had. And it turns out I might have been. I don't know. But what happened was Taekwondo was the wrong art for me. Because it was external. I didn't know the difference between internal and external. I don't want to explain it here. And I've got a long torso and stubby arms and legs, which means I'm fighting tall, skinny people, and I can't reach. I got to get in close. Uh-oh. All right. But the problem with getting in close is you get hit a lot. So what I practiced was taking punches from the toughest guy in the school to practice for fighting in close. And it turns out that was related to what's called, in temple style Tai Chi, gold bell training, which is bouncing punches and kicks off your body effortlessly. So when I run into a Tai Chi master and he says he's been doing Tai Chi for 30 years or 40 years or whatever, I don't care what he looks like. I want to trade punches. You hit me and I'll hit you. That's the test. If he's got Jing, he'll bounce it off. Doesn't happen. When I get hit, I bounce it off like it was a mosquito. Nothing. Meant nothing. If you have the Jing, your body is going zzz. It's like you have a buzz inside of you that's a very high frequency. Now you have people talking about healing with vibration. They got machines that do stuff, or they've got light, or they got red lasers. No, I have human vibration from practicing 10 hours a day for 50 years. 50 years is a long time. When you and every day is connected to the day before. The key to being great at something is consistency. You have to have a good teacher or teachers. You have to treat it right. It has to be important to you. You have to put in your time. In my case, 6 to 10 hours a day for the first 10 years. You have to be corrected. You can't just learn something and never have anybody look at it and go, okay, here's what you're not doing right, and fix it. I've been fixed by the best. That's how I got like this. So once you cultivate your Jing, I'm talking about Tai Chi Jing, you're never the same again. You don't get tired. I was sleeping 2 hours a night for the first 10 years of my Tai Chi practice and never wearing a coat. Now I only wear a coat when it's like 20 degrees out. Anyway, diet has something to do with it. My Tai Chi master said, if you want your Jing, you can't eat meat. What does meat do to your vibration? It makes it sluggish. It slows it down. You're eating the vibration of the cow. I haven't had meat except by accident once or twice every couple of years, because they say, oh, no meat, and they put meat in anyway. You can practice, but you start with tidal wave Qigong. It's the first thing I created. Before that, I taught my Tai Chi students pieces of Qigong, and nobody got any results out of it because I didn't have a format yet. I didn't have the formula. I wasn't organized. Now, the first person I taught Qigong to who got it was Mr. Han, my Taekwondo master. So not only did I leave him and he be disappointed in me for leaving Taekwondo with him, but I came back a couple years later and we were friends. And I taught him Qigong. And in the Yellow Page ad in Chicago, he ran a full-page ad as a Qigong master. And I didn't know this for years. But when I went to his funeral, he died in 96, I walked in the room and some Korean who I never met or didn't remember meeting bowed to me and called me Master. I guess it got around. So Mr. Han was my first Qigong student, and my second Qigong student was Dr. Moon, my acupuncture teacher. Now, Mr. Han practiced. The reason I turn out really good at all this is because when I studied with Mr. Han, he taught me how to practice. Then when I switched to temple-style Tai Chi, I learned what to practice. So he showed me something, he'd go, now do it 200 times. Well, nobody else was doing anything 200 times because you're afraid that you tell somebody to do that, they're going to quit your school. In fact, Mr. Han, toward the end of, I was only red stripe, he would have me teach classes to all the black belts who started after me. I wasn't black belt. I told him, I want to be good. I want to be the best, green, blue, the best you've ever had. So I never took tests. So he had me teach a black belt class in his school. And afterwards, he called me in his office and he said, you're too hard on my students. What? They're black belts. Okay, so the next week he'd say, teach the class again. So I'd teach a class. All I was doing was what I was doing. I wasn't doing anything harder or more complicated. And then he'd call me in his office again, and he'd say, you're too hard on my students. What? I didn't understand that. I was a kid. All right, gives me another one. Teach another class. And I keep thinking I'm letting up, and I'm not. So that he calls me in again and he says, listen, the rest of the students aren't here for the same reason that you are. They're here to get away from their wives. They're here to learn how to stretch a little. They're here to look like they're learning how to fight. They're here to sweat. They're not here because they want to become a master at anything. So then he said, I can't have you teach in my school. You have to wait till you open your own Taekwondo school because you're too hard on my students. They're all gonna quit. So he stopped me from teaching, which was okay. But what I learned was I was the extreme. I didn't know I was the extreme. I thought I was like everybody else. What else happened with Mr. Han's school? If I had a conflict, which I always did, of course, with some other student who was higher ranked than me, they'd show me something and I go, I don't think this is right. I think you're wrong. How could I be wrong? I'm your senior, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, let's go ask Mr. Han. So I knock on the door. Mr. Han, we have a difference of opinion. I need to know which is correct. Okay, show me yours, show me mine. he'd point to me and he'd say, he's right. A week or two later, it would happen again. Different senior student. Let's go ask Mr. Hahn. Knock on the door, walk in. Mr. Hahn, we have a difference of opinion. Show me yours, show me mine. He'd point to me and he'd say, he's right. Well, this happened one more time. He's right. And then I knocked on the door, fourth time, and I said, Mr. Hahn, and he said, he's right. He didn't even look at anything at this point. So I was developing confidence. Before Taekwondo, I couldn't do anything. I sucked at sports. I couldn't really wrestle. I was in a million fights because I was Jewish fighting the Catholics because I killed Jesus. Anyway, that's another whole story. So I got sent to military school for fighting in 7th grade. I was 2 years in military school. Bad boy school. When I got out, I was wired in high school. The fights kept going because the anti-Semites were everywhere in the neighborhood I grew up. So I was prepped. I was gonna study boxing with Johnny Coulon, who was one of Muhammad Ali's boxing coaches, at 63rd and Woodlawn. I would have been the only whitey in a black boxing gym. They would have killed me. But my father had a heart attack and died right around the time that was going to start. I was going to learn boxing at 16. So when I started Taekwondo in 1973, I was lucky to have found the perfect teacher for me. Mr. Hahn was great. And he's famous. I didn't know he was famous, but at some point, when you're the best, one of the best in the world, it shows up. So he taught me how to practice. When I switched to Tai Chi, I learned what to practice. And now back to the Jing. So my Tai Chi master always talked about the Jing like it was some elusive incident. Well, it happened to me. I got it in 1978. And I was never the same again. I was never tired again. I was never sick. You can really change your constitution. By the way, I do constitutional acupuncture. I don't do TCM. So I do kinesiology, need be. I do 5-element acupuncture, need be. But most of the time, I never use needles. I created a thing called Acupuncture Without Needles in, early 80s. Nobody heard of it before. And then there was a book called Acupuncture Without Needles, but I was already doing it. But what happens, because I have the Jing, I have a cultivated vibration that I'm able to pass either through a needle or through my finger or through my thumb, or depending on what has to be done. I've treated over 20,000 people. Now, where does that lead to? In 1987, I was doing a Qigong personal power training workshops. Yeah, it sounds like Tony Robbins, but he copped me. I didn't cop him. But what happened was everything was ready for something to happen in my seminar in 1987. And I asked for volunteers, and they volunteered, and I started poking around. I poked here, oh, and it was the same sound in everybody. So what is this? This is abandonment. Does that mean they were left on the church stairs or a fire department? No, that means disappointment. Here is anger. Here is rage. Here is bitterness. Here is guilt, anguish, sorrow. So I had about 10 people in the seminar, and everybody was agreeing that this was anger. Is that rage? No, that's not rage, that's anger. I had no idea what they were talking about. But because I had the Jing, I could touch somebody and activate this spot, this abandonment. Oh! So I came back and I told my commodity traders about this weird thing that happened in my workshop in Portland, Oregon, and they said, cool, do it to me. And I've been doing it ever since. People fly to see me for what I've named emotional liposuction, where I remove abandonment, anger, rage, bitterness, fear, guilt, anguish, and sorrow. I've done it on Grace 20 years ago. When you take these things out, your life changes. So you're not pissed off all the time, or you're not hating yourself, or hating your wife, or hating your body. So lots of things happen. You could read my book. The book was written before I created emotional liposuction, but you can get the vibe off it. And if you want my book, I'll send a PDF. If you text me and text me your email address, I'll send you the Qigong Bible for free. My cell phone is, get your something ready, 312-446-8218. I'll repeat it, 312-446-8218. All this is on my website. I got my website in 1994 when everybody said, they all sounded like my Aunt Ida. What's a website? You don't need a website. What's a website? Just put flyers on telephone poles. Sorry, that died a long time ago. My website is Qigong.com, spelled Chikung. Could I have gotten Qigong? I didn't want Qigong. Qigong is China. Chikung is Taiwan. Don't ask me the difference. I don't know. There's no difference. It's the same word, but I didn't want to buy. I tried to get TaiChi.com, but it was already taken by a Tai Chi master in New York City. He was dead. He was 20 years older than me. Anyway, my website has everything on it. Qigong.com, spelled Chikung. You don't need my email address. Make sure you text me at 312-446-8218. That's my cell phone. I also have an 800 number. 800-782-4244. If you see this and you're out of the country, 800-782-4244. It goes right to my cell phone. Same voicemail. If there are any questions, I know this is a small group, but I'd be happy to answer. Frank, you got a question about Jing? Where's Frank? Frank. All right. Ask me. I hope I didn't put you to sleep, because I certainly. All right, ask me something. Go ahead, figure it out. I'm putting you on the spot because you're the only one that qualifies to ask me this kind of question. Go ahead. Well, I also do emotional liposuction on Skype. I've done 20. Yes, I do that all the time. People hire me to treat them or to fix their situations. They're not here. They're not sitting in front of me. I have to. I've developed the ability to project my spirit outside of myself and stay intact. That's what happens when you practice 10 hours a day. Go ahead. You got a question? And that's on purpose, like time cycle from 5 element? Okay, I understand that. Right, and I'm separate from time. I am separate from time and space. I absolutely understand what you're talking about. And now the gallbladder is midnight. Now you're not talking about the 5 element cycle necessarily. Right. Because I was hired in 1979 in the beginning of my Tai Chi teacher career to treat an Apache medicine man in Arizona. So one of my students drove me in my car to Arizona. This guy he was an Apache medicine man, and he had a stroke, and for 6 months he was laying in bed, dying. He forgot how to speak English. He couldn't move, and his son hired me over the phone to repair his father. So we drove to Arizona, mountains, the coldest place I've ever been in my whole life. And what happened, I started treating. I asked Dr. Moon, my acupuncture teacher, what do I do? And Dr. Moon said, figure it out when you get there. Oh, great. So I didn't get any help out of him, but what I did was I figured out, according to his symptoms, that he had a gallbladder stroke. Nobody ever heard of a gallbladder stroke. I never even heard of a gallbladder stroke. So I treated gallbladder, amongst other things, at 12 noon and midnight. And in 2.5 weeks, he was walking with a cane. He learning English came back. When I first went to put a needle in his leg to treat gallbladder, when I first put the needle in the first time, nothing happened. He just laid there like he was a piece of meat. But as I was treating him, every time I went to put the needle in, his leg would go, So he was starting to avoid and evade the needle. I mean, it doesn't hurt. You put thousands of needles in thousands of people. But nobody knew what I was doing. In fact, when we got there, the Indians met us getting out of the car, and they're looking in the back seat, and they're looking in the front seat, and they're looking around. And I said, what are you looking for? And he said, where's the Chinese guy? No, I'm the Chinese guy. They looked, what? You're the Chinese guy? Anyway, where's the Chinese guy? So I fixed Nick Thompson, and 10 years later there was a write-up on him that he was riding horses. So I treated the Apache medicine man. And in my book, the article is called Medicine Man Meets Medicine Man. I had it published in Heartland Cafe newspaper. Remember that when that came out? That was the first thing I ever wrote. So do you have any other questions? Go ahead. This is your chance. With the active time for the element, fire, earth, metal, water, wood. Right, there's a chart for it. I have a chart that Dr. Moon wrote. I can text it to you. I have it. I have the chart. It's a 5-element chart. And my specialty is 5-element acupuncture, but my third DVD program is called 5-element constitutional Neigong, where I created every I created fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And when you're transitioning from each element, I put water in there as a lubricant. When I was first creating, I created it in 2015. When I was creating it, I was having trouble switching elements. So I realized I got to put water as a precursor to changing to wood, and water as a precursor to changing to fire or to metal or to earth. Well, first of all, I don't do homeopathy because I'm not smart enough. I know I'm not smart enough. And I don't do herbs because I'm not smart enough. I know I'm not smart. I'm not a smart guy. But because I had great teachers and I busted my ass, I got this way. And I'm the only one out of Liao's group, except for I had 3 seniors, Mike, Dave, and Ron. Ron died, leukemia. Mike closed his school and went private. And Dave moved to Colorado and doesn't even have an email address. So if Liao only had 5 or 6 or 10 great students, I might be the last one. Because I was at the same corrections classes as my seniors who were a generation ahead of me. Mike, Dave, and Ron, they had schools before I even started Taekwondo. But because of Mr. Han teaching me how to practice, when I got to Tai Chi, I learned what to practice. So because I have this organizational skill, you haven't seen the printout. It's got subsets. Everything in temple-style Tai Chi I put into mini categories. It was written up in Inside Kung Fu magazine probably 5 times. That is, all the articles are in the Negung Bible chapter 1 that I separated. That's a giveaway. So if somebody wants me to send them the Qigong Bible PDF and chapter 1 of the Negung Bible, which has the entire outline of the entire Tai Chi system in it, I'll be happy to do that. But the starting point is condensing breathing, and the starting video is tidal wave Qigong. So if you want, you text to my cell phone your email address, and I'll send you. I can't text because you can't text PDFs. I mean, I had a program, but it won't work anymore. My book is 340 pages. Everything I ever said about Qigong is in the Qigong Bible. And the original name was Beyond Self-Help, but that didn't mean anything. But the Qigong Bible and the Negung Bible's $1,000, but I give away chapter 1, which has all the Inside Kung Fu articles in it. And, I've given away thousands. I mean, I've been doing this. I've got students all over the world. In fact, I have 2 funny stories from last Monday. Last Monday, I called in Amazon. Yeah, I got time. Amazon, because they delivered to the wrong address. So when they deliver to the wrong address, you call up and bitch, and you get a credit because you never got the package, so they give you a credit. So I worked out this credit, and at the end of the call to Amazon, the woman said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." She said, "Are you Gary Kleiman, the healer that does acupuncture?" I said, "What?" And she said, 10 years ago, my back was killing me, and I needed help. I didn't call you, but I found out about you 10 years ago. And I said, what country are you in? And she said, guess. And I said, Philippines. And she said, no. Let me give you a hint. Spices. And I said, India. So this woman knew about me 10 years ago from India. And then that night I went to Indian buffet where I live, and I was talking to this lady, and her husband was distracted. He was looking away, and we were talking, and he turned around and he looked at me and he said, he points and he says, You're the, yeah. I said, yeah. You're that guy. You're that guy. I go, yeah. You do Tai Chi and Qigong. Yeah, you're the guy. This is freaky when it happens. It doesn't happen that often, but every time it happens, it's this. So do you have another question about 5-element, about projecting, about timing? I mean, I've been doing all this stuff professionally for since I started. Go ahead. Because if you can ask Tai Chi questions that nobody else in the audience watching this is ever going to think of. Go ahead. I'm putting you on the spot. Ugh. And it's not like Aikido where everybody cooperates. No. And I have a list that I made that I'm going to be doing videos on YouTube, TikTok, of stuff that nobody can ever figure out or ask about. I made a list, 20 things that they'll be on my YouTube channel pretty soon. I'm ready. Is the rest of the world ready? I don't know. Every time I meet a Tai Chi guy, they always say to me, well, I do Qigong too. No, they don't do Qigong too. They do 8 brocades. I'm not doing 8 brocades. How did I learn how to project to Egypt, if that's where the call came from 8 brocades? Give me a break. This is serious. Temple Style's the only Tai Chi system, as you know, that you learn one thing at a time and you don't get the next thing until you're okay with the last thing. Because I teach Tai Chi on Skype Tuesday and Friday mornings, 10 o'clock Central Time. And it's just like being in a room because the Tai Chi world is spread out all over the world now. I got one of my best students is in Spain. He's been with me for, 25, 26 years? He's next generation Gary Kleiman. But the rest, everybody else, yeah, I mean, they're rare. I've got a handful of students been with me almost 40 years, but they're not outgoing. They don't have the personality. Listen, I get in arguments with everybody. People hate my guts. But what happens is they say, I heard Kleiman was an asshole. And then they say, but he's got it. Well, yeah, the but he's got it is what I care about. I haven't changed my personality not one touch since you met me. Why would I? Look what I'm up against. Everybody I talk to about any of this stuff wants to argue because every Tai Chi guy thinks they're me. Oh yeah, I do pushing hands. Oh, come on, give me a break. Anyway, what's on my list here? This is for Tai Chi practitioners already. I'm going to be teaching all kinds of... It's not tricky. It's just stuff they never saw before that I know because I practice 10 hours a day. So, you have another question? We're doing good, man. You know, this is what it's like. Timing. Do I care about 5-element timing? I used to. I used to do kinesiology, not applied kinesiology, but I did, you know, I have a friend named Dr. Whitley. He died 2 years ago. He was the best chiropractor I ever met. We were introduced to each other in 1980 and we became brothers. So I taught him my stuff, he taught me his stuff. But his son died from drinking, and 2 years later, Whitley died, not from drinking, but from the whole thing. So I hear this. One of his patients calls me from Arizona and says, Dr. Whitley died. I know he talked about you like you talk about him. Well, yeah, we were like blood brothers. And what happened was his wife was taking him to doctors trying to find out what was wrong with his spine. Nothing was wrong with his spine. So after he died, I called her and I said, why didn't you let me know? Why didn't you bring me in? And she said, oh, great, something else somebody could be mad at me for not doing. And a year later, she called me up again. She was my friend. She called me up and she said, I owe you an apologize for what I said to you. And you're right. We should have had you fly in because I could have taken out the depression associated with his oldest son dying. Because that's what emotional liposuction does. Do I know what it was? I don't know what it was, but I'm considering everybody has 4 things: abandonment, anger, rage, and bitterness. In the early days, only... let me get rid of this. Come on. I gotta... My alarm clock is starting here. It's my alarm clock. I have a class starting at 11. Give me a second. I'll fix it. No, I gotta turn the alarm off. Come on, give me a break. I hate this. One, and it won't go off. Well, Frank, it looks like my alarm is beating me here. Come on. I can't get it. All right, I'm going to have to sign off. My website is qigong.com, spelled Chikung. Feel free to call me, text me, 312-446-8218. Thank you. I gotta go. All right.